we are required to find the exact value of that arithmetic expression. And we are given the instruction that we may use a calculator or otherwise. What it means to use a calculator or otherwise, the affirmative way is by making use of a calculator. But otherwise means that the problem can be solved otherwise. Generally, the method for otherwise or any other method for otherwise might not be the easiest way to solve the problem. The simplest way should be the first one that the examiners suggest, which is by making use of a calculator. The statement say use a calculator otherwise. This tells us that it is quite likely that the square root of 1.5625 is a finite decimal. If we might find the square root of this without using a calculator, it means that quite likely it is a finite decimal, which makes it what we call a rational answer. If it is a finite decimal, I guessed that finite decimal to be 1.25, and I was correct. Therefore, we may say that the square root of 1.5625 is 1.25. That must be in the first step of solving the problem. What should also be in the first step of solving the problem is squaring 0.32. The square of 0.32 is related to the square of 32, which is 1024. Squaring a number doubles the number of decimal places. If you square 32, you will get 1024. If we have a particular number of decimal fraction places like we have right here, 2 of them, when we square this figure, the number of decimal fraction places will double. Therefore, we will have 4 digits following the decimal point. Squaring a number doubles the number of decimal places. 0.32 has 2 decimal places. Its square will have 4 decimal places and will therefore be 0.1024 because it's related to this figure. And we have 2 places of decimal. We need to have 4 decimal fractional places. It should not require a calculator because we should be familiar with the powers of 2. We should know that in our normal indices topic, and we should also be aware of that when we are doing information technology. Powers of 2 are very important, especially to information technology. 32 is equal to 2 to the power of 5, and 1024 is 2 to the power of 10. This part is not difficult. We just square 32, which we know to be 1024, but we need to have 4 decimal fractional places. That is the result. As long as a square root will give a finite decimal, which is a rational number, the number of decimal places in the answer will be half of the number of decimal places in the number that we find the square root of. And that might appear to be more than a mouthful. As long as a square root will give a finite decimal, notice that it gives a finite decimal. Well, if it would not give a finite decimal, we would not be told that we could do it otherwise from using a calculator. So we know that it is a finite decimal. Now, if we are finding the square root of this figure, 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places, finding the square root of this, as long as it gives a finite decimal, which is a rational answer, the number of decimal places will be half of the number of decimal fractional places that we have right here. We have 4. When we find the square root, we will have 2 places of decimal. And when we add 1.25 with 0.0124, this will be the final result. The converse is also true, namely, when we are squaring a number with a decimal fractional part, the number of decimal places in the answer will be double that of the number that we are squaring, which of course again seems to be a lot. But in this particular case, we can clearly see that with 0.32, which when we square, we are taking a look at the fact that we have 2 places of decimal here, and the answer will have 4 places of decimal when we square it, which means that we doubled the number of decimal fractional places. Download Richard James Mathematics Resources app from the Google Play Store and have all of your examination solutions, instructional manuals, and other electronic books and booklets in one place. Also, have all of our products and services at your fingertips and on the go. Call or WhatsApp 876-351-9689 or 876-318-8848 for all hard copy books and booklets to complement your studies. Significant discounts will be given to everyone who is registered with any of our programs.